This is Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's a feel good Friday morning, 32 minutes past 7 a.m. You're listening to the Smooth Breakfast. Ayokunmi here, and it's that time to dive into the world of the papers. Take a look at the dailies and, of course, the headlines and the stories that are making the rounds and have us talking as well. This is Freshly Pressed. It is, as always, an interactive session. So we always look forward to you joining us to share your thoughts on the stories, your perspectives, your opinions as well. We love to hear from you every single time we get on the show. And you can be a part of the discussion this morning by sending your messages to us on WhatsApp. The number hasn't changed. It is still 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join the live stream on YouTube. Yes, you can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways you can join us this morning. You can also drop your comments right there on YouTube. Yes. And of course, we shall take them as we get along. On the show with me already this morning is Joseph Obari, one of the dynamic duo. He's in at the moment. AB will join us along the way. Fingers crossed on that one. Joseph, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, listeners. It's good to be here again.
Absolutely
Hope it's going to be
fantastic.
a wonderful weekend. Yeah.
Oh, yes, wonderful weekend in prospect. But before then, let us take a look at the stories making the rounds in the papers this morning. We're going to start in the Vanguard here, Joseph, and talk about the tax reform bills. The Senate has passed for second reading the four tax reform bills that were forwarded to it for consideration. Now, after scaling second reading during plenary on Thursday, the president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, referred the four bills to Senator Sani Musa of APC Niger East-led Committee on Finance to carry out other legislative action and report back in 6 weeks. Now, prior to the debate on the bills, the senators had gone into a closed-door session from about 11:55 a.m. to 12:42 p.m. Now, of course, as we all know, and for those who do not know this, the bills had caused a lot of controversy before now. Northern governors, kicked against it and so on and so forth. And I saw yesterday Senator Ali Ndume of Borno State. He had a couple of things to say about this particular bill. It was on a TV show yesterday, and he said that he's not exactly against these reforms, but according to him, the time is not right to actually do this. What do you think about those comments, Joseph? And of course, the fact that these particular reforms, the particular bill has scaled second reading right now.
Well, of course, it's a legislative process, and we expected that the senators of Nigeria would do what is right for this country, despite what anybody feels. As it is, it's democracy. The majority can always have their way, and the minority will have their say. So Ndume is free to say whatever he feels about this legislation. That's his personal opinion. And if he has got any counter view, he can debate it on the floor of the Senate. And if he's able to persuade his colleagues to see reason for him with him not to pass the bill, then he can win and make sure that it doesn't happen. The truth simply is that there is no best time to do the right thing. In fact, doing the right thing, the best time to do the right thing is 2 days ago or 2 years ago. So doing the right thing at any given time is just appropriate. Nigeria has been sitting and holding down for too long because people feel it's not the right time to do this, it's not the right time to do this. It's the same debate we had over whether we're removing subsidy or not.
Right.
So we have to bite the bullet and face reality as it is. This country is just grinding gradually into a halt because we have not always taken the right decision. We pander to interests of people. We listen to sentiments and all that in most of the time, parochial, ethnic, religious, whatever. And so we fail to do the right thing. And if the government feels that this is what we need to do to right revenue collection and revenue generation in terms of taxation, I don't see why some senators will become sectional about it. This is the last thing you expect Nigerians to be sectional about. Is we are talking about revenue generation. You shouldn't just be happy to share revenue from every sources, and when you're not even generating enough. And then when the reforms are brought about that will make changes and create balance in the system in terms of revenue generation, you balk and you look for excuses and kick against it and bring up primordial sentiments. As we said here on the program previously, the North has better sat up and face reality. Let the governors in the North begin to think and see how they can harness the huge potentials of that region, and not always sit back and expect that money should be shared with them from anywhere else where revenue is generated. So enough has been said about this, and we don't need to belabor the matter and say, oh, well, this is what it is, or it is the right time. It's not. It is never a better time to do the right thing, please.
Never a better time to do the right thing. The best time to plant a tree. Right time to plant a tree was yesterday. Next best time to actually do it is today, or something like that. I can't remember how the saying goes, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say here. Welcome along to the show, AB. Great to see you and have you in this morning.
Hello, good morning, all. Great to be here.
Good to see you. Welcome.
I was afraid maybe the ghouls and gremlins were holding your network hostage or something.
It was a little bit. I was slightly distracted. I'm glad to join you. Sorry about that.
Fantastic, great to have you in. And of course, let me jump over to your neck of the woods here and head into the Guardian and talk about President Bola Tinubu, who said on Thursday that Nigeria is open for business as he embarked on a state visit to France, with Paris looking to boost ties with English-speaking Africa following a series of setbacks with former allies on the continent. Now, of course, President Tinubu is on a 3-day state visit to France to have discussions with the French president to renew ties, to talk about how collaboration can come into play, and so on and so forth, how they can come together to fight insecurity, corruption, and so on and so on and so forth. Now, it has been, should I say, quite an interesting time for the president over there in France. I saw a video yesterday, at a dinner where a band, should I say, serenaded him and the Nigerian contingent with a version of one of P Square songs and all that. So definitely there is a lot going on over there. Now, I cannot speak to the intentions of the French. I can't speak to being in their minds, but what I can speak to, and I mentioned a few minutes ago, is the fact that their influence on the African continent has waned. I mean, looking at what has happened in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, and so on and so forth. Now, is this probably a way for them to, get back some influence in Africa on one hand, and on the other hand, how careful should Nigeria be in dealing with this situation? Yes, we want some things from them, but at what cost would be the question.
So the immediate history should inform. And while I completely approve of the sentiment that Nigeria is open for business, it is essential that the terms and conditions of the business, especially the fine print, are clearly stated and crafted in Nigeria's best interests. It can never, and it should never return to the kind of situation whether the French had with our Francophone neighbors, where fundamentally the French were extracting resources, leaving literally no benefits for the people. And that has been most exposed, unfortunately, or, fortunately, by the coup things that happen around us. When they kicked the French out, and we saw videos of the French people destroying things as they were leaving. That, for me, if those videos were confirmed, was a sign of the bad faith with which France had been operating all the time. Sure, Nigeria is open for business with anybody who's willing to do business with and in Nigeria. On my part, I am I have zero interest in hearing that Nigeria is doing business and a country is doing things in manufacturing. If you want to do business, you come and establish your companies, your factories, everything here with a transparent effort to engage Nigerians primarily, and a fixed time frame by when Nigerians must take over. And I'm not talking about a generation, because with the size of the world having been shrunk by technology, we can readily understand any process in 5 years. So no, there will be benefits for the French to maybe access to a large market like Nigeria. But Nigeria must see itself as a positive partner in any form of collaboration. But we're talking, this was the first time a Nigerian person, a Nigerian president has been there, according to the story, in decades and all that. Oh, that's a lot of fanfare. I'm happy to hear P Square's song. That even tells you that it's something that I've always said. Our Nigerian musicians and to an extent our actors have been better ambassadors than our entire government officials over a generation. People know Nigeria because of our musicians. That's the truth. So let us see that part. They even mentioned the story about Nollywood. Let us see some cultural opportunities, some entertainment opportunities, some manufacturing opportunities, some tourism opportunities as parts of the way to go. But this story does mention that part of the challenge in Nigeria, leaving more than half of the country below the poverty line, has been the insecurity. So you might go out there and be shaking hands and eating French toast. But at the end of the day, if you don't keep your country safe, nobody can effectively invest or partner with you. So President Tinubu, enjoy your time there, but come back home. Stop running away from the problems in Nigeria, many of which you triggered by some ill-timed and poorly executed policies, despite what I'm hearing about, what did they say recently? Unemployment has dropped and GDP is rising. Yes, those are nice academic things, but look around you and ask yourself questions about the truth and propriety of those stories.
All right, Joseph, do you want to get a couple of thoughts in, because we need to take a break? Any additions to what AB has said on this matter?
What more can I say when Caesar has spoken? I mean, this is so. The truth simply is that you can't blame any country for wanting to protect its interests. And what's been baffling for African leaders is that they are never able to see where their own interest lies in bilateral relationship with foreign countries. And that's what is killing us as a continent. And so as B has said, I hope that we are entering this kind of relationship with our eyes open, because at any given time, you give an opportunity to people. Europeans will always promote their own interest above yours. So we pray that our leaders have the discernment to be able to read and know where their interest lies and how to protect their people.
All right, thank you for sharing those thoughts, Joseph. Let's take a quick break right now. When we come back in, we'll continue the conversation and be talking about some security matters, as a new Chief of Army Staff has been concerned. Keep it tuned to Freshly Pressed right here on Smooth 98.1. Chief AB, welcome.
My brother, it is. Yesterday was Thanksgiving over here, so
okay. The turkey is still working in the system. I understand.
Man, I will tell you, I didn't even touch turkey. We went to visit a man who is a Ghanaian and his wife is a Nigerian. And I ate some delicious Ghanaian food. I didn't touch the American style. So I've now eaten some of the food that I've heard sung about in Runtown song, Shito and Banku and and all those. It was delicious, really delicious.
Oh my goodness! All right. Oh, AB, I sent you a message beforehand. How do you pronounce that area? Alesa.
Alesa.
It is Alesa.
Alesa.
It's Joseph.
Alesa.
Yeah, it's Joseph.
Okay.
Oh no, that's Joseph's village.
Okay, okay. I wasn't sure, so that I will not butcher it. All right, thank you for that.
No,
All right. All right, welcome back to Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast right here on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love life station, a feel good Friday morning. Ayokunmi here, having a great time, taking a look at the stories in the papers, and of course, analysis being provided by AB and Joseph. Welcome back, gentlemen. And of course, you are also part of the conversation as always. So do share your messages with us on the WhatsApp platform 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981 is the WhatsApp number. Dami from Ikeja says, every time the government is always complaining about its revenue, but when are we going to have a conversation about the absolute dumpster fire that is called government expenditure?
Yeah.
That is a
Very
whole other
apt.
game.
Yeah.
Whole nother ball game that we can spend eternity having that conversation. Daya from Fagba says there's a saying when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse or misuse is inevitable. I want to ask, how many times have you seen the Rwandan, Senegal, South African, and other African presidents flying up and down to woo investors like our president does? That he wants to bring investors to invest in the country. You haven't put your house in order, no security, no light infrastructure. You have issues in the economy, and people have been turned to beggars and so on and so forth. So long message, Bodayo. We do get the point. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. All right, Joseph, let's talk about the new chief of army staff. And the reason I'm bringing this up now, the House of Representatives on Thursday confirmed Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede as the substantive chief of army staff. This followed his screening on Wednesday by the Joint Committees on Defense and the Army. This story is coming out of the Punch. Now, this is probably the worst kept secret in Nigeria. I mean, before the passing of the previous chief of army staff, he had been in an acting capacity right there. So it seemed inevitable that he would be confirmed as the chief of army staff. But one of the things that I'm actually looking at here is a story we talked about yesterday concerning power, where TCN engineers and so on, they mentioned that their military escorts, would tell them that they could only work for a period during the day, or they couldn't go to those installations at particular times because of the security situation. We talked about this yesterday on Freshly Pressed. Now, those are military personnel saying that. Now, we have a new chief of army staff now. It seems like what he has on his plate to deal with is next level.
Yeah, I mean, what the House of Reps did is barely perfunctory. Never have we seen that they present an appointee to government or a nominee for any position, and the National Assembly says, "Oh no, kick this person, don't." It rarely happens. So it's more or less like, oh, giving a nod to the president for his choices made. And of course, in his own right, he's an excellent officer. He's got the credentials to be where he is. And just like it was said on the floor of the National Assembly, they consider him a fit and proper person to be in that position. But like you said, his job is called out for him. And it is important that he recognizes the significance of the role he has to play in the history of this country at this given time because of the level of insecurity we're experiencing. So it's for him to bring his wealth of experience and knowledge to changing the strategy that is making us unable to deal with security situations as we are facing in the country right now. So no matter how brilliant you are, if you cannot bring all of that wealth of knowledge to bear on the situation, then of what value is it? So it remains for us to say he's made some statements about how he thinks we can deal with this situation. It's the action that really will tell the story, because everyone that has come has always said, this is how I'm going to do it. And of course, we've not seen significant changes in this direction. So it is up to him to now demonstrate, to walk the talk, that he can play that role and play it very well, because the army is the lead arm of the armed forces. is the lead arm of our armed forces, and so and is the oldest of the three arms. So it's very crucial that they are on top of their game, and that in every center they are able to particularly deal with terrorists, decisively. Terrorism shouldn't have a place in this country at all. With the kind of military we have, I don't see why we should have. And they don't have any excuse, because they are being, this is about the best time they've been funded. They've never been funded so well than it is now. So there are no excuses at all whatsoever.
Right, right. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Those thoughts there, Joseph. Oluwaseyi on WhatsApp says, "Come on, it's wishful thinking to hope that Nigeria's interest will be topmost in any agreement we will enter with France. Europe and the UAE are our politicians' relaxation spots, medical treatment centers, and some of the places they stash their loot. They need favors from these countries to continue to enjoy these things. So please don't hope Nigeria's interest will be topmost. Moreover, Nigeria's daddy in the UK, followed by the US, France just needs an option down south of their former colonies to launch a comeback at them." What we're talking about in terms of, I mean, the intentions or what is in the mind of the French in reaching out at this point in time. Would they have reached out if things were still honky-dory with their former colonies? That is a very big question. We probably won't know the answer to that question, but hey, here we are. AB, let's talk about the Port Harcourt refinery. It has been in the news, and it seems like anything having to do with the NNPCL stays in the news over time. And hey, we are back here right now. And an interesting development coming out of the Punch. Now, the secretary of the Alesa Community Stakeholders, Timothy Ngbere, has alleged that the petroleum products loaded from the newly rehabilitated Port Harcourt refinery were not freshly refined, but products left in the storage tank of the facility in the last 3 years. Now, he also alleged that the refinery only loaded 6 trucks on Tuesday, despite stating that 200 trucks would be picked up from the refinery daily. Ever since Tuesday concerning this refinery, it has been one allegation or the other. It hasn't been a seamless transition. And it just seems like wherever you see the NNPCL or hear the NNPCL, there just has to be something K-leg-ish where they're concerned. Now, this is another allegation right here.
I have spoken before about how the NNPC is symptomatic of the tenacity of mendacity in our government. These kind of allegations can only arise and be sustained because of the complete lack of transparency. The fact that there is a huge trust deficit that exists and is being sustained by the NNPC. This is a major allegation that I would argue could be corroborated or discarded by simple journalism. There's a vast difference between 206 trucks. I would imagine that with the fanfare that the NNPC announced the restart of the process at the refinery, it would have been possible to see hundreds. I mean, 10, 20, 40, 60, up to 200 trucks rolling out. I should also tell you that the road that these trucks roll out of the refinery is one of the worst roads in the country. A road that was so bad recently that a huge fire occurred and tens of people at least were killed in vehicles because the road was so bad. It has been ongoing. The current Senate president, before he became the Senate president, went there, made a promise when he was the head of the NDDC ministry or something, and left. And little or nothing has gone on. So you want to roll out 200 trucks onto one of the worst roads in the country. Which road do they pass, first of all? Now, we've heard about blending of this. We've heard about all these allegations. I would have thought that in the best modern style, when the NNPC is rolling out the drum for this thing, they would have had literally opened the proceedings with all the safety gadgets in place to all sorts of sources, both formal news and informal, to demonstrate what they're doing. But all we have here, we have allegations on this side, counters, we have denials, we have papers that have been shown printed online about importation of this, blending of that. Listen, I'm not in the oil industry, so a lot of it flies over my head, but it just goes, even as a non-oil industry expert, but as a simple citizen and an educated individual, something smells fishy in the refinery process. And I'll say it again, this fact that Mele Kyari still has a job with all this is one of the biggest, most troubling facts that pollutes the Nigerian news space every day. Somebody has to be held to account. And he is at the top of that because you cannot remove the Minister of Petroleum called President Tinubu. So let the person in charge of NNPC be called to order. How do we have somebody who's a member of the host community saying this and this is what I'm seeing happening? If he's saying this and is wrong, he should be prosecuted. So
Right.
I'm not taking his side. If NNPC can demonstrate that he is lying against them, they should put him straight in a court and prosecute him for lying. Otherwise, they should demonstrate that he is wrong. But NNPC is currently shrouded in too many stories that don't have a single bearing on improving petroleum availability in Nigeria. That is not what they're not supposed to be spending time in their news, in their press room. They should be spending time dispensing fuel that is refined, not imported and blended, or what is, according to the story, what was in the storage tanks for the past 3 years. Because surely if you're going to refine, if you're going to improve a refinery, you will need some product inside to be testing, right? So what I'm saying is that even as an outsider, some of these allegations seem like they could be true. NNPC just demonstrate that they're not and put an end to all of this.
All right, thank you for sharing those thoughts. AB, interesting times that we are looking at right now. Joseph, do you have a one-liner to add to this particular story before we take some messages?
I mean, the truth simply is that, like B said, some serious journalism work can actually just dispel most of these things. It just takes for a serious media organization to find marketers who actually lift products from that place and interview them and talk to them, and they will tell you the truth. And we know what is happening because as it stands now, as the B has said, we can't know the truth from NNPC. Because with the excitement of that followed their press release, if this was a major milestone, you expect that they should have adequate press coverage ahead of the production.
Absolutely.
It's a simple thing. So there's a lot of dark cloud hanging over the PC and their refinery.
A lot of mystery, as it were. Let me take messages as we get on out of the studio. Rexy from Surulere says, the president's trip to France is a welcome development for our economy. We need more friends with mutual benefits now more than ever. And then he says, AB, that's your disdainful pessimism your disdainful pessimism is concerning, that you should try to mask your disdain for the president and his government. We listen to be informed and educated, not recruited to hate the government. I don't think you need anybody to let you decide whether or not you hate the government. If you live in Nigeria, you can make that decision for yourself, really.
The fact is, I have no disdain for the president. I have no problems. In fact, I always say I plan to eat my heart on air when and if these things, but I assert that I am able to argue the positives of the policies. The execution is inept. That is why Nigerians are where we are. I was always a subsidy removal hawk. I always was when Jonathan did it. So you cannot tell me it's about disdain for the president, but you are entitled to your opinions, no matter how ill-informed they may be.
All right, let me take a couple more. This is Bean Boy from Correct. It says, it's never about them not knowing what to do, but their personal and private interests they put above the nation and the populace. Right. Michael says, I hope he's not planning to visit Trump. The gospels will be heard in Russian. My brother says, I'm sure the illegal refineries have better and higher output than the NNPC refinery. Please let them legalize them, I beg. Ibrahim Zakari says, please correct me if I'm wrong. Was it not in France 3 of our presidential jets were held hostage by a Chinese firm over a deal with the Nigerian government firm that went bad? And we want that country to come invest in our country. Continue. Okay. Tony from Marine Beach says, if this PH refinery matter becomes another version of the Nigerian air saga, it will be the height of it, and how the Nigerian masses will welcome that is yet to be known. Fingers crossed. All right. JP says, interesting allegations. It does seem most of the loading went to the retail arm of NNPC. A lot must be done to find or to found these allegations by the media. Trust deficit with the government is really high. Corporate governance is a mirage. Really sad. Cheers to you too, JP. D from Ikeja says, sometimes I wonder if our leaders get into power just so they can bring Jules Verne's adventure novels to life. That is, i.e., around the world in 80 days. I haven't read that in a while. I really should take a look at that one again. Good read if you haven't seen that before. Emeka says, calling investors to come and invest in a country with policy somersaults, a country where the FCT minister can wake up one morning and revoke the CFO of any landed property, and you think they think it can happen to them? Let's put our house in order. Even a Davido podcast won't change anything. All right, let me take one more here. This is Joseph Many. It says, it's really unfortunate and pathetic when you are more aware that the real ambassador are those entertainers who actually woo investors with what they see from outside and how they can benefit too. But it's the complete opposite with all the jamboree trips by the government. All right, and on that, we need to call it a morning on the show. Thank you so much for all the messages, and thank you very, very much, AB and Joseph, for joining me this morning.
It's been a swell time. Nice to see you again, AB. Great weekend.
Thank you. The pleasure and privilege always mine. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Happy Friday.
All right. Happy Friday to you too. And of course, thank you to all the wonderful listeners out there for sending messages and always keeping it tuned to Freshly Pressed and the Smooth Breakfast. Don't go anywhere because it is going to be all about sports at 8:15 in the locker room.
All right, Ayo. All the